Welcome to Toonium, everyone, friends and nerds alike. We are the new element in animation. I'm your humble host, Old Hunter Rage. Today, with me, I have my best friend, Animus Prime JR. Say what's up.
What is up, peoples?
And if you saw the thumbnail, you know what we're talking about. We are talking about the Bad Batch. The first 3 episodes. I did 4, but it's okay. I can't count. The first 3 episodes. I believe this is only the second week of this show because they released the first 2 episodes last week. For those who haven't seen this show, a really quick rundown of this show is, I believe, and JR will fact check me because he's the resident Star Wars nerd in all of this. This is about, I believe they're Clone Troop 99. They're 99, right?
Yeah, Clone Troop 99.
Yeah. They're called the Bad Batch because they were kind of like the rejects of the clones. They kind of have like their own set of, I was going to say degeneracy, but that's not the correct word.
Like genetic.
They're just different.
Yeah, they're like genetically altered so that they would have like special abilities other than the regular clones.
Right.
So they're often
in essence, as the meme goes, these guys are literally built different. I had that written down. I was like, I can't wait to use this. This is gonna be great.
That's good.
But yeah, so we'll go with the first 3 episodes. We'll start with the first one, the season opener, and each episode we'll give our quick 2 cents before we get into spoilers. After we get those out of the way. So the first 3 episodes, what did you think, JR?
I think this is it's ramping up to be like a very interesting season. Like the very beginning, we see the group already on their job, and they are like experiencing the change of the Empire, and just trying to find out what to do. Like that was the whole the first episode, and they go through a job that they are having a struggle with, and we see some growth within the group. We see growth in Omega, one of the characters that they essentially adopted, right? It's their little sister, I would say. And it's nice seeing them like more fleshed out in this. And in the 3rd episode, we see more of like the other side of the conflict. We see more of the Empire and how they do things, and some clones. Without spoiling too much, some of the clones that we see in Clone Wars and even in the movies, we see how they're like struggling to believe in the Empire anymore, and that's always interesting to see. Like all these clones slowly realizing that the Empire is just not a good place. That we're with the wrong people. So I thought it was an interesting 3 episodes that would continuously it catches my interest, and I'm excited to see more.
I would have to agree because you got me into that first season, which I mean, because we were watching just kind of bits and pieces of Clone Wars, and then around the time when they announced the final season of Clone Wars, I was all in. I was like, oh yeah, we're gonna watch the whole thing. And then when they announced that these guys were getting their own show, that was different because I was like, oh, I've been wanting more of these guys, and every episode they show up in is like interesting. And now that they're getting their own show, it was like, oh, this is gonna be a good time. And that first season hit a lot more emotionally than I was prepared for, which is like I feel like I should have been prepared for that because Star Wars seems to be hitting the emotions a lot lately. But it was still good. And the first 3 episodes of this season have already, I feel like they've already made their mark. Just by, I will say, the first episode in general does one of my favorite things that season 2s of shows can do, where they're like, it doesn't have to go through the whole introduction of, these are who the characters are, these are what they can do, this is where they are. It's just kind of one of those things where all of a sudden you're thrown into the ending of a plan, and you already see that it's gone wrong, because the first episode opens with them running out of a forest with a bunch of crabs running after them. I was like, yeah, that sounds about right. That looks right. This looks normal for them. And then it gets better in season 2 because they're presented with a mission, and as the show usually goes, they're presented with a mission, and the mission almost immediately goes wrong. I feel like it's never because of them. It's just because of the Empire is so predictable, even though they shouldn't be unpredictable, because they're still predictable in a way. But it's like how quickly and how ridiculous things can get out of hand when the Empire is involved. And then they have to autocorrect on the fly this plan that's going awry. And it just, they're good at dealing with things when things go wrong. So it's always fun to watch them get out of these things. And then episode 3 is kind of the one that I was waiting for, because I was wondering, we had seen all the characters up until now, and then when I saw who was in the 3rd episode, they go back to Crosshair and you get to see him again. And then I believe the Imperial commander was like, how long were you on that planet? And that's when it hit me. I was like, oh my God, they left him on that planet. I completely forgot. And he was like, I was there for 32 rotations. And I was like, oh, you were there for like a month, dude. Like, I can't believe it. And that was one of those reminders where I was like, oh, I completely forgot about this guy being stuck on this planet like that. And the 3rd episode was great too, because it shows a stark contrast between, the 2 sets of people that you're dealing with. Even though the situation is dire on both ends, on Crosshair's end, it's definitely a little bit deeper, because he's still, you can tell he's thinking about things, like he's questioning things, even though his whole thing is, good soldiers follow orders, but you can still tell there's something working in his head that he's not fully listening to. But it'll be interesting to see where he goes from here, for sure. Yeah. So I guess we can go ahead and jump into spoilers, because those were just the 2 cents.
Juicy bits.
Oh, where do we even start? The crabs. The crabs crack me up the most. Yeah. It cracks me up every time, because it's just like, again, it's one of those things where immediately the episode starts and you're like, I don't know what happened, but this makes sense, because of course they're getting chased by something.
I for sure think, like, when I saw it, I immediately was thinking it's probably Riker's fault. He's always the bombastic out of the group, and lo and behold, I was correct. Echo was like, we went over the plan 5 times. 5. It was like, oh, how am I supposed to know that they would respond like
this? He's a big dude, and sometimes it just, things don't really sit in his mind for too long, and then, you're getting chased out of a forest by giant crabs, and then what else are you going to do? But they show very early on in that episode how, even when the plan goes wrong, how well they all work together. Because even though they're trying to shelter Omega, she's in the ship and everything like that, she's still eager to get out there and do something. So she like hangs out of the ship with a bow and arrow, and I was like, who taught you how to do all this? Like, what is this Rambo stuff?
It is in my blood.
But technically it is in her blood. Yeah, you're right. But it's very fun to watch them, kind of have to, for all intents and purposes, bullshit their way out of some of these plans when they immediately go wrong. But I believe it's in the first episode that they're presented with the new mission, right, by this mysterious lady who we don't see much of. Yeah.
Kind of hoping to see more of her later on down the line because she seems interesting. And she's voiced by Wanda Sykes, I think her name. That's her name. Okay.
Right.
Yeah. And I'm thinking, this is an interesting, like the way that she's introduced and all that, and how she thinks very little of the group already just by looking at them.
Right.
And then we see her like talking to Tech, like who is you, Brown Eyes? And I'm like, oh shit, Tech. Is that a woman?
Yeah, just a little bit of I see an attraction there. I mean, I see only an attraction on her end. He don't care. Like,
Tech immediately kind of botched it up by talking.
Yeah, he'll get there eventually. But she presents them with this mission to. They have to go raid Count Dooku's war chest, if I remember correctly, right?
Yeah, all his war assets that he's collected over the years, and I thought that was very interesting that they bring us back to like a Clone War location, and I always thought that Dooku's palace, like it was the most ominous looking background. Like every time you see him, he's always plotting something, and to see it in a different set of circumstances, I thought that was just like kind of jarring, but also very interesting to see.
Right. It's something that I never really thought about. It was strange because this kind of goes into the second episode. I never thought about the fact that he's a count. He's rich. He comes from a rich family, and it never occurred to me. I was like. Because you always think, he's a Sith Lord, and the Count part always kind of went towards that in my head. Because I was like, oh, it's like Count Dracula. He's kind of weird and evil, but no, he's a rich dude. I don't know why I never thought about that. It's such a strange thing.
I love how you made the comparison with Count Dracula and like Dooku's actor, the original actor for Dooku. It was Christopher Lee.
Yeah, actually,
played as Dracula.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's your connection.
There's a connection in there somewhere. Yeah, that is that was quite a strange thing I had to think about because I was like, I know he had a lot of spoils from war because obviously the Sith are kind of enveloped in war like that.
Yeah, the Separatists.
But he's also rich, so there was a lot of just family stuff in there too, and I was like, I never thought about it, and it was such a strange thing for me to think about.
I know that there's like a deeper background as to like how he came back into power because he was originally a Jedi. Usually they have to forgo all of their personal attachments, so they have to leave their past behind, basically. But I'm guessing since even as a Jedi, he's still like in connection with his home world and all of that. And when he turns to the dark side, I guess, that made things a little easier for him to come back as, the ruler of his planet, of his town, basically. And, fund the war effort, I guess. Which is because that's essentially what happened in the second episode. Like one of the old dudes that they encounter, they talk about like where the money came from, and it was like, you think that that Count Dooku only took from other planets. No, he took from his own people. And I'm like, damn.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit.
That is bold. And that second episode, even with the plot of them trying to steal from the war chest, and when it obviously goes wrong, because again, this is something Star Wars likes to do by pinning someone under some cargo and breaking something. So
to be fair, that's only recently. That's like the second time it happened. But it's too much of a coincidence to not point out.
It just, like, whenever I see it happen, because it's not even just Star Wars that does it, it's a lot of things. But now that I've watched 2 shows in Star Wars that did it back to back, luckily in that first show somebody died that time, and that was rough. This time he didn't die, he just like hurt his leg. But it was like, okay, that's safe, but it's still happening too often. Like, I'm not enjoying this.
I'm kind of curious on how that's going to work out and as the series go on, because that was Tech that got injured, and he's the smart guy of the group, so maybe he's going to be the guy in the chair now.
Could be, yeah. I could see that. And then also, I think it was a good bit of character development for Omega, because it was just like, it was a small moment because the guy gave her a toy and she's like, do you use this for battle or for something like that? And he's like, no, you just play with it. And it was one of those moments where I was like, oh yeah, she's a kid. She's a kid. She's never played with toys or anything like that.
She's surrounded by soldiers, by scientists. She's never had a childhood ever.
Yeah. It's things like that quickly put things into perspective, because you can tell she's got, like, she has it in her to be childish and, to have fun and all that kind of stuff, but she rarely gets the opportunity to, with present company. I think the closest person that she can get that from is Wrecker, because he's a child in his head anyway. But yeah, that's a great episode. I really enjoyed that one. And eventually they do get off the planet, and everything's okay. But then
they had to leave the treasure behind.
They did fail. Yeah. They failed, but even though they failed, now there's like a cool little subplot happening with the Imperial commander. I can't remember his name, but I just remember watching it today.
His name is.
I was looking at him. I was like, Rampart. Okay, because I remember when we were watching the first season, and we looked at him, and I was like, "Is it just me, or does he look like Woody to you?" He totally does. Man, he looked just like Woody.
He was Woody before they changed him to be a good guy.
Yeah, like now I call him Commander Woody, so that helps me remember who he is. But he's got like a personal stake in this now too, because I believe he was in charge of getting rid of Task Force 99 in the first season, and thought he did, and now they're still here. Yeah,
until that clone captain Wilco, he said to him, "Oh no!" Rampart was like, "I need to address some inaccuracies." And at that point, when he was saying that it's an inaccuracy in his report, like how this is going to go down, is like, oh, he wants to keep it quiet.
Yeah,
he does not want to believe that they're alive, or want other people to believe that they're alive. So he silenced this clone, who, oh my goodness, it pissed me off, because that captain, I really liked him, because he came up with the team like really quickly. He was really competent. He was one of the more competent clones. And when he was addressing to Rampart, Rampart was down there, you're going to falsify this report. We're going to keep this quiet. Task Force 99 is dead. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. And at that point, I was like, oh, damn, he's disobeying orders. He's going to be one of the good guys now. And then
he gets shot. And I was like, oh, man.
Always the good one.
We were so close. And it's strange because Wilco was one of those, you don't see this very often in some of these shows, where like you follow this specific team of people and you're watching them go through their adventure and everything like that, and you're rooting for them. But Wilco was so competent in his job and such, like, even on the other side, a genuinely good soldier.
Right.
You wanted him to succeed, which is a strange feeling.
Oh, yeah. It's a strange feeling.
Because it's like, that
makes for good storytelling, though.
Exactly. Yeah. And, well, now we don't have him anymore, so there's that.
Yeah.
So that brings us to episode 3, which reintroduces Crosshair, who is not on Camino anymore. I believe it was Camino.
Yeah, he was on Camino when they left him. Now he's on Coruscant with.
He was on Camino for 32 days.
For over a month.
I was like,
oh my god.
I was like, 32 days.
And to explain, he was in a platform above water.
Yeah.
In a fucking ocean planet. That's where do you get food? Like, he probably made like his own fishing line or whatever to make his own food. But oh my god.
That's again, that's one of those moments. As soon as I believe it was Commander Rampart that said it, he was like, yeah, you were on Camino for 32 rotations. And I went, oh my god, I completely forgot they left him stranded on that planet like that. Not to mention he was there for 32 days. That's a whole month by yourself. And like you said, on a platform on an ocean planet. That sounds awful.
Oh my god!
I don't know how he got through it.
The survival skills he has, and we get reintroduced with Cody, which was the one I was excited for the most, besides another one that we might see later. And it's nice to see Cody again, even when he's on like the bad side, because that was always a question for me, like during Clone Wars and by like the end of, or around the middle of Revenge of the Sith, where when he was executing Order 66, like he was like, blast them. And that was kind of the last we ever see of him. And we see more of him in Clone Wars. We see more of his personality, how he's like a really stickler for the rules, but he's also a good guy. So it's kind of a shame that he would be on the bad side, in the Empire side. And we see him, and throughout the whole episode, we see how he's starting to have doubts, that he has doubts with the Empire. And by the very end of the episode, his fate is like undetermined. Like, we don't know what happened to him. Like, he went AWOL. And I just thought this was a really great episode that shows like Cody and his struggle between the Empire and his own morals and shit like that. Mm-hmm. I just love that.
So a quick synopsis of the episode is Crosshair is, I don't know if I would say he's eager to get back into action, but you can tell he wants to go back and do things. But he is tasked with going to Dessex. If I remember correctly. Yeah, I wrote it down. I made sure to write it down. He has to go to Dessex with Commander Cody to secure the city and get this one of the Imperial officers, because I think they're holding him hostage. So they have to go get him back, right?
He was supposed to be the new governor. Like, he was supposed to replace the one that's already there. And what's interesting is that this is a separatist planet, and here's the thing about the separatists that not a lot of people would forget. They're not entirely all bad. They're not all bad. They just didn't want to be part of the Republic because they thought that the Republic is corrupt. That they didn't want any part of that. So there are planets that just want to, be by themselves, and they are protected by the separatists. And I like the fact that this was a separatist planet because we see more of the battle droids.
Oh yeah,
I fucking love battle droids.
They're always fun. They're so much fun to watch because they're like. It's so funny how these droids can have so much personality. Like there's just this one moment where I believe one of the battleships shoots down the ship that's coming in, and the droid's like, "Nice shot," and they give each other a high five. They're so much fun to watch. I love them. It's a shame you don't get to see them that often anymore, but they're a lot of fun to watch those droids, and I like how I think Star Wars does a good job in shifting tones with a lot of their shows, especially their animated shows, because they show how immediately different things are for the characters just by how their surroundings are. Like with Rex and the others and everybody, and Hunter and them. When you watch them, it's not happy-go-lucky, but it is more of a positive note. But then immediately, like from the first frame, when you see Crosshairs, it's depressing. Like, he is in a horrible place. He's with horrible people, and he's got to go do a horrible thing. And they really hammer it home by even, how do I say it? You can still tell, like I was saying, you can still tell there's still something working in his head. Like he's questioning things, but his motto is still very much good soldiers follow orders, and he wants to be a good soldier. And
he's really upset.
And it's funny to hear, I believe Cody in the episode says good soldiers follow orders. So it felt strange to hear Cody, who's a genuinely good dude, say that. And I think, I don't know if, this is only episode 3, so I assume we might see more of this, but I feel like Cody saying it himself and then acting the way that he does, Crosshairs will see like the error in that kind of, thinking. And I don't know if he'll ever join the team again, or, God forbid he dies by the end of this. I have no idea.
Like my biggest fear of this whole season is either Crosshairs dies or Cody dies, because there was no, I don't think there's any stories of Cody of him switching sides or what happened to him after the Clone Wars. But it's funny that actually it is appropriate that Crosshairs is thinking what he's thinking right now because of Cody, because Cody worked close with Task Force 99, like the whole group. And even Cody himself, he wanted to work with Crosshairs in the Empire because nobody else kind of wanted him. He would just be assigned to a different group. And it was kind of sad seeing Crosshairs, like it at the end when he was doing his report, that that Rampart was saying, like, you're going to be reassigned to CC whatever number, and he's like, what about Cody? And then Rampart is just Cody. You don't see the clones as people; he sees them as numbers.
Right.
And Cody says the number, and that's when he learned that he went AWOL, and he's like, huh, that doesn't seem right. I don't understand.
Right.
Like, he's trying to understand these people's thought process, but I don't know if he's ever going to get it. Maybe he will at the last minute, and it'll eventually lead to his untimely death or whatever. That's how I see this playing out. But yeah, it's just I like this episode because we see more regular clones, because I always loved the clones in the prequels and Clone Wars, and to see them all being like replaced, to see them all dying out, to see them just not being treated well by the Empire, it's just sad to me. Just gave me that emotion. It's just, they're really phasing them out now.
Right. Well, if that's everything, if you had to rate this, if you had to rate these 3 episodes together out of 5 lightsabers, I don't know. Well, it's something. 5 lightsabers. If you had to rate these 3 episodes out of 5 lightsabers, what would you rate it?
I would say 5. Like, that's mostly biased for me, but I've loved these 3 episodes. These were really solid episodes. So
I would, I'd have to agree, because there's a lot of season 2s of shows that start off way worse. And some of them feel like they have to catch you up on so much stuff, and then it feels like the catch up has to get in the way of new story, and this show so far doesn't feel like it's doing that. It feels like it just immediately got into new story and you're just with it. So that's, you know, bravo on the writing, bravo on the characters, bravo on everything. It's Star Wars is killing these shows, man. They've been doing really good lately. I have to give it to them. But yeah, so let me do this. If you liked this video, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Tell us in the comments what you thought of this episode, what you thought of the first 2. Tell us what you're thinking of that's going to come from this show. And I guess an added extra is, tell us what your favorite Star Wars show is. Whether it's like the new Disney Plus stuff, it's like the old Cartoon Network stuff. Tell us what your favorite one is. I've been Hunter Age. That was Animus Prime, my best friend JR. We have been Toonium.